Hello, crafty friends. This is Sarah Arciniega, and today I have a one-page scrapbook layout to share with you. The picture I want to document today is a picture of myself and my first grade class. It was the 100th day of school, and stay tuned to see how my husband gets tied into the story. But first I want to talk about where I got an inspiration for this page. So last video, I actually did a scrap lift of a page from Crafty Concepts with Erin. And so as I was looking at all of her pages, I came across this one, and I just loved all the strips. There's so many things I love about this, but the strips of paper really caught my eye, and I thought I could use it for this story. And so that's what I plan on doing. I plan on bringing in my zip strips. The zip strips I'm bringing in are from the Love Notes collection from Close to My Heart, and I will put a link down below. But I bring in the zip strips that I have left. I have used a few of them on other layouts, and so I did actually need to just take the scraps of my paper and cut off 1/2 inch strips of that. And so I'm going to bring in some peach colored, it has small polka dots, and then I bring in a darker, it's like scarlet tone, mostly floral. There's some red apple, candy apple, excuse me, in there as well. And so in between all of these strips of paper, though, I printed off a list that I made on this 100th day of school. So I got a little ahead of myself, but if you're new to scrapbooking, or maybe even just to close to my heart, you might not be familiar with the term zip strip. So a zip strip is just simply a branding strip. On one side, it has the information about what collection it comes from, as well as coordinating colors. It's very helpful to use as you plan things out, but on the reverse side, it actually is decorative. And so these come in handy for all sorts of little projects. You can use them as borders and all sorts of things. But I actually a lot of times ooh and ah over them, but sometimes don't end up using them. And so I wanted to make a special effort to use the rest of the zip strips from my Love Notes collection. This particular one I'm cutting off of is actually from a mix-in collection, because I did go through to look for more scarlet and peach colored ones just so I'd have a variety. And so this is from a mix-in. It uses French vanilla instead of white daisy though, and so spoiler alert, I actually end up pulling it because I don't like the way it looks with the white daisy. So I've laid out all the strips, tried to balance some color, and what I'm showing here is I used the line on my Versamat to get my strips at 45 degrees. And what I discovered after I laid them all out is that I didn't actually want them at 45 degrees. It was a little too much like to the side, especially because I have some text. And so, it'd be like you'd have to turn your head to read it. And so I don't want them straight either, but the 45-degree angle was a little much. And so I'm going to go ahead and lessen that angle. At this point too, I'm discovering candy apple is a coordinating color, but it's just sticking out like a lot to me. So I change them, as you can see here, to scarlet, and I do like the way that looks better. So my next step is to adhere all of the strips down. So I just picked one to start with, and then from there it was quite easy. I just made sure the next one was right up against it and just kept taping, down the row. So while I do that, I thought I would tell you the story and why my husband's involved in the 100 days of school. And so what happened was that I had my students bring in collections of 100 things. And so some kids brought in 100 cotton balls or 100 bouncy balls or 100 Pokemon cards or whatever they brought in. And so after school, I wrote a little note to my husband and said something to the effect of, my kids brought collections today of 100 things, but instead of that, I thought I would write a list of 100 things that I admire about you. Then I went to the store and I actually got 10 balloons, and I took the little pieces of paper from the list and put 10 different things from the list in each balloon. And so I took the bouquet of balloons over to him, and there were 100 little pieces of paper in those balloons of things I, admired about him. And so sadly, I did not get any pictures of us or the balloon bouquet, but I thought this picture of my first grade class on the 100th day of school was the perfect opportunity to tell both stories, both, what we did in school that day as well as, the little bouquet I made for my husband. And so, funny enough, when I was cleaning things out when we were getting ready to get married, I found the little pieces of paper in a drawer that he'd stuck in there. So the text that is between the little strips of paper, that's the list that I made for my husband. And so they just have all the little things that I admired about him. Of course, I didn't fit all 100. I just picked a few to put on there. But right now, what I'm finding too is I kind of got impatient. I wanted to see what this was looking like. And so before I finished all the strips on there, I turn it around and start cutting it off. I really would probably recommend just waiting until the end and doing this with a paper slicer. Also, if you opt to use scissors, I would use a bigger pair of scissors. I really like these precision scissors. I use them all the time to cut out, stamps and cut things off. But I did find that when I used a bigger pair of scissors, it was a lot easier. And right here, I'm just showing you another thing I learned as I did this. I kept putting adhesive on the strips, and I did discover that it is easier to actually put it on the 6x12 paper that I'm putting it on, like gluing them onto. And so it's all done. So now I need to decide what color of paper I want to put this on. I did mention that I glued all of the strips onto a 6x12 white piece of paper. You could use any color there, but it's just easier to have that all on one piece. So now I'm trying to decide if I want the other half to be scarlet or white. And I do know that I want to bring in these numbers. These are from the Let's Party Scrapbooking stamp and thin cuts. And the numbers are just the thin cuts, but they are going to be used a lot on my scrapbooking pages. And so I've cut out 100 in the peach colored cardstock. I really like the dark background, but I decided that I wanted to stamp on my layout, so white actually ends up winning. What I'm doing now is I am testing out this cute little font. My title will end up reading with the 100 cut out. It will say 100 Ways I Adore You. I'm using scarlet ink. I'm also using the back of my Versamat. It's nice and spongy, and so it gives a good impression when you stamp. This alphabet set is no longer available. It is part of a pendant flag stamp set, but there are many other alphas available on the Close to My Heart website, and so I will put some links below for some cute alphabets. And I like having some alphabets in my stamp collection just because then I can do all sorts of fun titles with them. So I'm liking the way the title fits. So next what I do is I pull out the balloons. This is from the Cardmaking workshop, Let's Party. And sometimes I just put the stamps on my layout to see, like, placement wise how I like them. And so I'm liking this a lot. And I have also put a scarlet piece of paper behind my picture, but I've decided also that I want to add a thin layer of peach. So I've gone ahead and done that. And now what I'm doing is I am actually stamping on my layout. And I do a pencil line to make sure it's straight. It actually doesn't end up completely straight, but that's okay. When you do a pencil line, you do want to make sure that you've let your ink completely dry before you go to erase it. And so next I'm going to stamp the balloons. I'm using scarlet ink as well as peach ink. And I always want to practice before, especially with these stamps that are very solid. It's a good idea to make sure that you're getting a good solid cover before you stamp it directly on your layout. And so you can see me doing that every time. I do it on my scratch paper, and then I re-ink and do it on the paper. And so I was pleasantly surprised that these all stamped well, and I really like the way it looks. I do actually end up bringing in 2 more just because I felt like there was too much space at the top, and so I wanted to kind of fill that in. You'll see that here in a few minutes where I've added the 4th and 5th balloon. But I also, the balloon strings are adorable that come with this. You don't even have to draw them like a lot of times, you draw them on, but these are actually stamps. And I also decided to add some cute puffy hearts. These are also part of the Love Notes collection. You can buy them individually or as part of the bundle. And so here I'm just trying to balance the size and the color. And so I play around with this quite a bit. I feel like this layout could be used in a lot of different ways as far as, it doesn't have to be on the 100th day of school, but you could just simply make a list of things you adore about someone. You also don't have to do 100 things, but I think it's a great practice really to reflect about what we admire about those we love and to document that for ourselves as well as the person we love and maybe even some posterity. So I did decide that I needed to put some puffy hearts below the 100 just to kind of, do the whole balance thing. And after I got two of those placed, I decided it still needed a little something. However, I have found that sometimes when you just go to add a little, it kind of explodes. In fact, I'll put a link to a video where I had a star explosion, is what I called it. And my stars went a little crazy. But I told myself with this cute little dot stamp that I could only do it 3 times. So I was very strategic about where I put them. I put them, in a triangle, and I really like the effect. You can't see it too much on this video, but I also used peach as well, so it was a light color. So now I've added my journaling. I journaled mainly about my classroom activities on this page. At some point I will do a second page where I actually make a pocket to put the little card that I wrote my husband, and I will do some more journaling about that time in our lives on the other side. And so this is really primarily about what happened in my classroom that day, but I did want to put some puffy hearts around it as well as use the little dots. And so I go ahead and put 3 of those around there. And I really like how this turned out. And so I hope you have as well. Please, I would love it if you subscribed to my channel so you don't miss any other crafty videos. Feel free to give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed it or leave a comment. I love reading those comments and feeling a part of the crafty community. And I also have linked some more videos that you might enjoy watching. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a great day.